So, this is the inverted pyramid. You need to collect this moon and this moon back here. Actually get into the pyramid. Or you can do a trick called IP clip to get into the IP early. But in this video I will show you a trick to get on top of the IP early without ever entering the interior of the IP, which saves a decent chunk of time for many categories. Number one thing is getting on top of the pyramid, like right up here. You see this 3D section? You want to get up here because you can actually stand on this piece of ground right there. For that we use this icicle in particular. You can see it because it's like right on the edge right here, and we need this edge to get on top of the pyramid. You can just easily jump up there, no problem. There is another method to get up here though, that is exclusively used in Darker Side, or if you have some very interesting routing in Talker 2. In Darker you do dram, and then you capture this bullet bill right here, which you can then use to just fly all the way there. Gap throw, and do this. Then from here we want to get up here. The method most used, and that is the fastest, is the backflip. Right here. That's how you can get up here. You want to make sure that you're on the very, very top of the icicle right here to get the most height. Do like this, yes. You can also do a spin taunt right here, which I like to do when I do Darker Side. I do this, and then I can just buffer it, because I'm coming off of a dive. Exactly. That's how you just get onto this piece of floor right here. And that was the easy part of the trick. Now we come to the actual difficult part, which is to do a corner clip to get out of bounds right here. Because we can't really jump up there unless we go out of bounds and then jump on some out of bounds collision to slowly climb up the pyramid. For this we go right here. And what you want to do is a long jump, cap for dive, and then clip right in. Okay, so how the hell did I do that? Let's go step by step. The first thing that you also want to do is adjust the camera. I'm not going to go into the details too much. It will make more sense once we have covered the entire trick. But just for starters, let me show you this right here. This visual cue that I have, it's this sort of smudge right here. If I turn the camera, the smudge is still there. Okay, I can't properly show it, but still the same smudge. Now it's gone. Now it's there. Now it's gone. Now it's there. It's this smudge that we need for our visual cue. For the actual clip, I want to try and hold forward, like directly forward. And for that I need the proper camera angle, which is somewhere around this smudge, sort of. I'm always trying to get close to it, like this, or like barely not visible. But all of this works for my setup, because there are also other setups. If you've seen Tyrone, he does this. If you've seen Carmen, he does like this or something. But those runners then need to hold a different control stick angle. So these other setups work. You just need to adjust your control stick angle for the clip. But we will get into that later. For now, just for the sake of this video, let's go with my setup, where we do sort of this camera angle, because that will allow us to do a very particular control stick angle for the clip. Okay, small interruption, because I just uploaded the video to YouTube and realized that the visual cue that I showed is actually just not visible, thanks to your compression. Thank you, YouTube. So, there is this other setup, the other visual cue that I can show you. We have these two parts of the wall right here. We have the like outer part and then the inner part where my usual visual cue is. And instead what you can do is move the camera so that this inner part is not visible, like this. Here it's very visible, here it's like barely visible, and then like this, just not visible at all. And then you can use this setup to also clip in. You need to hold further up left, but as you can see, that also works pretty well for the trick and clipping into it. So if the other smudge just doesn't work for you, you can use this other setup and then you can also do the clip. Once we get into this position, we want to do the long jump that I just showed you. We want to start from further back so we can get a full speed long jump. I think it can work from here, but it's just a bit more finicky. feels slower. I just don't like it. I prefer standing like further back and then just building up a bit of momentum and then going for the clip. You want to jump off the very edge right here to get the most distance, because jumping from back here, it just defeats the purpose of going into the back in the first place. So you want to start from further back and then jump off the very edge when trying the clip. But yeah, then we go into the actual clip. I want to capture and dive directly forward. I usually aim for the very middle of the seam, of course, or a bit further right. You can always see if you're too far right or left, depending on when you capture or dive. That was perfect, for example. That was too far right, of course. Which happens if you cap throw too early, then it will look something like this. We just go to the right, straight up. But going to the right is not that bad, you will just land on here. If you go too far left... Okay, that was not too far left. If you go too far left, let's go to the extreme like this. Yeah, you'll just fall down. This can sometimes happen if you're not careful. Okay, right here. You see when I threw Cappy? Go for the clip. You see Mario's position. He's a bit further left of the actual clipping spot, like the line that we want to clip through. But that works, as you can see. Want to go like right in the middle, because if you then dive, you just go right through. Of course, this also depends on the control stick angle that you hold and the camera setup, because in order to clip with like this setup, for example, you would need to hold like further up left like this. But if you do like this, you need to hold like to the right or something. I am not good at this clip right here. This is I prefer this setup, and this setup is also fine. Most people use this or this right here. Keep in mind, if you do the cap throw, Mario will still have momentum to the left because of your long jump. This is usually why when you do the clip, sometimes Cappy will stay out like this, but Mario will still clip through and hit, because you technically threw Cappy too early, or like too early to clip. But since Mario still has left momentum, he will still slowly go into the right spot to actually clip. And as long as you just get Mario to clip, that's all you need, pretty much. But yeah, that's the gist of it. You can either just use this method that I use, or do some of the other setups and play around. This is like the part that needs the most practice out of them all. You rarely see runners just get this first try every single run. Even the very top players are just gonna mess it up. So don't be discouraged if it takes a bit longer. It's one of the harder tricks in the game, for sure. But it can get consistent and RTA viable. But yeah, let's say you got your camera angle, you got your control stick angle you want to hold when you go for the cap throw dive, and then you actually get the clip. What do you want to do after you clip? So number one, if you clip, or like, honestly, if you're just doing the dive, you want to hold neutral right after the dive. Because if you don't hold neutral, you'll go like full momentum flying forward, and you cannot stand there and do the actual clip. So when you do the long jump cap throw dive, I hold neutral right after the dive. And then, see, I get a neutral bounce, and this is what we want to achieve. Once we get the neutral bounce, if we just don't hold anything anymore and just keep it neutral, we will fall down. See if I can demonstrate this. We will fall down. Because there is no ground collision. The ground collision is a bit further to the right. So in order to actually stand on the ground right here, we need to hold a little bit to the right. And then do a ground pound so we can like land right in this very small piece of ground. Because if we just hold too far right... Oh, we clip in bounds, who would have guessed? We want to land like right in the middle. We want to be like halfway in bounds, halfway out of bounds. That is our goal. We need to be very careful. Just hold a bit to the right. And once Mario moves like slightly to the right, you want to ground pound like this. So you can properly land right here. I think I've seen some people do like a cap throw ground pound right here to land. I didn't really like it personally. I just went with the ground pound. But it can work. You can see I'm standing on this collision right here. You can go a bit slightly to the right, slightly to the left. That should be perfectly in the middle. You see there's a bit of leeway. But yeah, of course you can clip in bounds again if you go too far right. You want to go like this. Sometimes you will end up like very close forward like this. Sometimes you'll be like further forward. And that can also change. Like all of this depends on when you did the cap throw dive. If you're doing like from further away, you will of course stand like here. But if you're doing the cap throw dive very close to the clipping spot, you'll of course end up back here. And you need to be careful because the ground ends like right in front of you, of course. If you're back here, it's not that bad if you're all too far right. But right here, it is very common to just fall down. You see, there's like no ground collision in front of us anymore. So we need to be careful for that. But as long as you're just doing the same setup always and just hold only right after the neutral bounce, then you shouldn't really fall too far forward or back. It should be very lenient in that case. But yeah, we're right here. We are half out of bounds. We want to get... I don't know if we can show this to you. The camera can be a bit weird. I don't think it will let me. No. I also can't, this person. But yeah, we want to land on this collision up here. Basically this guy up here, but also like this, slightly out of bounds, slightly inbounds. This is pretty much a blind jump, so I can't really show you. I usually hold like left or like slightly up left. So it's like almost 10 o'clock if you treat like a clock, and then you want to do the ground pound that we just did to get into position, and then do a ground pound jump like this. From there, hold like up left pretty much, and try to land here. This is gonna take a lot of practice, of course, since it's a blind jump. But yeah, once you know where it is, it's pretty easy to land on here. Because honestly, the hardest part is actually getting the clip, and then the movement afterwards is very consistent. So if you land right here, there are two ways to get on top of the pyramid. The easiest method that is used in most categories is to go land in this staircase right here. For that you want to backflip and do this. Yeah. Very easy. And once you do that, you're already on top of the pyramid. Very nice. There's another method. In darker side, you want to get this moon before going to Harriet. Okay, for this, to get up here, we want to do a triple jump and land on the very highest spot of this thing right here. And that's how you get up here with like a triple jump. It feels more consistent for me to do this like full momentum. I usually I do a neutral like single jump right after landing, and then I think like after the peak of the single jump I start holding forward and then try to land on the very top part for the triple jump afterwards. Show this again slowly. You want to do the single jump, and then after the single jump, on like the peak of it, you want to start holding forward again. And that way you just build up momentum early enough and still get your triple jump off. But yeah, that's pretty much how you can get on top of the pyramid. This is pretty much all there is to the tutorial. But let's go to some troubleshooting section. Starting from the very beginning again, from the icicle. Let's say you just... Okay, honestly, if you can't get up here like this, I don't know if you should attempt the trick, but it can be a bit hard to get on top of this, actually. There are multiple ways to actually fail this. If you like too low, of course, you want to make sure that you're actually on top of the highest point of the icicle, and you don't want to delay too much like this, because then you will either be too low again or too far forward, and then like you would have enough height if you like started throwing earlier. But for this you actually need to find the middle spot for how long you need to delay to get up here. This is kind of an awkward jump, but it can get very consistent. Now let's talk about actually clipping. Even if your stick is correct, but you still don't get the clip, there are other ways you could have potentially failed this one. It could be based on your long jump, maybe not on the edge. It was too far back like this. Or it had a bad angle that was like downward. Because you want to, of course, long jump down left to the clipping spot right here. And for the long jump, you want to like hold down and slightly left. Don't hold too far down, because then it will take a bit too long to get into the actual clipping position, because you need to move to the left, of course. So not moving far left enough and doing this, you will of course not clip. That is pretty obvious. But same goes to like this shit. When you go way too far left, it could get maybe faster or something, but Man, this feels so bad. You need to find like the middle sort of. That is not too far left and not too far down. So for the long jump, I just recommend you to hold down and slightly left. Now let's get into the clip. There is some stuff that can happen even if you get the clip. We have already touched on the obvious stuff like going too far right or too far left. This is just the obvious way of failing. But there's some other weird things. Let's see if I can get them. Okay, by the way, this happens if you don't hold neutral, you just can't land. There's sometimes... Yes, there it is. You get a value dive. And I think this is related to a wrong camera or control stick angle. And I know this is very contradicting, considering that I showed you a lot of different ways you can do the clip. But I think if you're just doing a value dive, it usually means you're looking too far like this. Because this happens if you throw Cappy, and Cappy stays in bounds, like to the right. But then if you dive with this angle, further to the left, you will of course get a value dive, because Mario will dive too far to the left. So if you're going for those setups, you pretty much have to make sure that Cappy clips out of bounds as well. So you can always land on him. But this is why I prefer my setup with this right here, or the Tyrone setup like this. Because then you can still get the cap bounce even if Cappy is still in bounds. Mario is out of bounds. This is pretty much how you can avoid the value dive. Just go like this or like further to this direction. And then you usually have a dive angle that will not go too far left and then miss Cappy altogether. You see, this barely worked still. There's another mistake. I think I've done this before. I don't know if I can replicate it. But when you like throw Cappy and there's like no Cappy. I honestly don't even know how this happens. I think you're like maybe too close to the wall or something. But of course, when this happens, it's very bad because Cappy will not be there for you to do the neutral bounce and you will just fall down. But I think this is related to being too close to the wall. So what you want to do is just, after the long jump, this is like still related to the long jump, you just want to actually make sure, let me reiterate, that you want to long jump off of the edge and not have too far of a left angle, because then you can build up distance from the wall, and I think that will make sure that Cappy will actually stay out like this and not just get eaten by the wall. But as I said, I'm not 100% sure why this happens. But yeah, those are the two like weird ways you can fail the trick even if you clip through. But afterwards, everything else has already been touched on. You just do this and then do your triple jump or backflip. Let's say you clip inbounds like this. Like if you fall down, you of course fall down, but if you clip out of like inbounds like this and you end up right here. I mean, of course you just failed the clip and need to retry again. But instead of just going down there, let me try. If you like going further down, further up you will crouch, but if you like going further down like this, and then long jump off of the edge, you can still make the jump back there and then restart again, saving quite a bit of time over just going down all the way. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. You can like try to heighten up your inputs once you get more comfortable. But yeah, that's pretty much how you do IP skip and get on top of the pyramid. I hope this tutorial helped you, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.